it's Naomi. So this is going to be a little bit of an interesting talk I'm doing today on something that inspired me. So I was thinking about people following things that they hear and taking it as fact and following things as they're an absolute truth. As you know, I do readings on Harry and Meghan and the royal family all the time on my channel. However, I never claim my readings to be fact, and in fact, I never even claim the news articles written about them that I'm basing the readings off of to be factual, nor do I necessarily believe them. I do the readings mostly for fun and because it's highly requested. Same thing with all the other celebrities I read on. I was inspired by watching Game of Thrones. If you guys are a fan, it just started to show Daenerys turn into the villain on the show. And I also was inspired by thinking of all of these barrage of hate articles written about Ms. Meghan Markle. So there's this quote that I think is very relevant to all of this, and I'm going to go into Game of Thrones and relate it to the subject I'm talking about without really going completely into having to say their names all the time. But the quote is, make yourselves sheep and the wolves will eat you, by Benjamin Franklin. So basically, how I'm relating this to the names that I don't want to name during the video, and you can figure out who I'm talking about because I said it at the beginning, is watching Daenerys' evolution through Game of Thrones was quite interesting, really, and how we perceive people as good and bad, and there's a very black and white thinking that people have where they're unable to see these elements of darkness or goodness in people that they've already written off as one way. So from the beginning of the show, they painted this Daenerys, if you have never seen the show, as this, she had a hard life to begin with, and she was from a family where almost all the members died, and they ruled all of Westeros. They ruled all of the Iron Throne. She had a mad king from her family who died and was crazy with the way he treated people. And she felt like it's her destiny to become queen because she is part of this, Valerian family where they are, part dragon, or they have this dragon energy where they can hatch dragon eggs, and she's powerful, this powerful queen who has a destiny to rule, right? She has long white hair, very like a white blonde. She's cute, pretty petite woman, and she's riding on dragons, and she does all of this amazing, all these amazing, utterly amazing things for people, freeing slaves, conquering cities. But I think that is the operative word here is conquering. She is molded in the show from the beginning to look like she's this kind, savior with a big heart. But in actuality, what she's doing is much like what Napoleon did. Very, very much like what a lot of other rulers did, who seemed good at first and then later on ruled their countries with a tyrannical fist, because it was all about ego, it was all about narcissism, and it was all about personal gain. So Daenerys is actually, in my opinion, one of the most dangerous kinds of narcissists, because she's the kind that can appeal to you. She's not a malignant narcissist like Cersei, who comes across as totally unlikable. She's the kind that can change their mask to be likable. And because all the masses, which is even the audience included watching the show, was given this picture of her being this beautiful savior, white-haired, amazing, she was supposed to be violet-eyed in the story, but in the show she has brown eyes. I think they should have had her do the violet eyes just for more effect. It would have been more like, at the real or whatever, but violet-eyed, white blonde-haired savior queen who saves the slaves and rides dragons. They painted her, built her up to be this amazing queen. And now we're seeing what could be the beginning of her descent into tyrannical madness and controlling with an iron fist over Westeros, which is not what people signed up for. The point of what I'm trying to say is we can learn allegorically from stories like Game of Thrones, from stories like Stardust, from stories like Lord of the Rings, from stories like Willow. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember Willow. That was in the 80s when I was a little kid. Fantasy stories are particularly valuable because even though they're set in different time periods, they have themes and underlying themes about life, about why we're here, and about what lessons can we learn from life, what meanings can we learn from life, right? So what is the lesson of Daenerys that we can take into present day about some young lady people like to talk about on this channel all the time? Well, Daenerys was painted as the savior from the beginning, and it hasn't stopped until recently. There wasn't even a short honeymoon phase with her. It was like through the whole series, people painted her as the savior, this wonderful queen, this she's coming to help us all. And now we're starting to see a little bit of her descent. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe in the next episode, they're going to make her just be the wonderful queen. She's going to sit on the Iron Throne at the end, and you can just throw my whole theory out the window then if I'm wrong. But if I'm right, and she really is descending into the dark side, which was in her all along, we just didn't want to see it, why then would it be so hard for all of us to believe that all of this negative press about a certain young lady in the media, all of these hateful pieces written, these things saying that she's hateful, she's mean, she's plotting, she's manipulative, she's narcissistic, she's this, she's that. What if it's the opposite? What if deep down inside, she's not as bad of a person as everybody's painting her to be? What if there's a bigger picture of something that's orchestrating all of this that's really to blame behind the scenes that you don't see in front of the cameras, that is really the thing you need to worry about? Not some woman who social climbed to the top, who happens to be biracial, who happened to marry a prince, which, by the way, I think a lot of women would want for themselves, and I do think there is a little jealousy with that. Not because of her race, but because she's a woman who tends to marry and catch rich men. She's very hypergamous. I don't think there's anything wrong with her for that, to be honest with you. This is what women have been doing from the beginning of time. She just owns it, right? As I said before, my only gripe with her is how she claims to be kind of like an SJW feminist, and that doesn't really go with being hypergamous. I don't think there's anything wrong with being hypergamous. I just think it contradicts herself that she says that other stuff. That's my only gripe with her, and it doesn't make me hate her. But the thing is that look beneath the surface. Like Benjamin Franklin said, if you become a wolf, if you become a sheep, you get eaten by the wolves. So what is the general consensus about her right now? It's not supportive. The general consensus of articles about this woman right now are negative, right? But how come nobody is taking a step back to critically question why? Why are all these articles negative? Are these articles all really true? When one thing is repeated over and over and over and over and over and over and over again to everybody, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that, and usually it's not the opinion they're trying to push down your throats. So if they're trying to push the agenda, the news, the articles, the supposed real mainstream media, which is doing it now too, writing attack pieces on her, if this is the agenda they're trying to push, to critically think is to take a step back, go in the opposite direction and say, wait a minute, what if it's the reverse of everything that they've been saying? And that's kind of what happened with Daenerys, but in the opposite. It's, oh, she was wonderful, she was wonderful. So if you put Daenerys in her place, right, as opposed, like if she was a real person, the whole story, the news articles that would have been written about Daenerys would be, she's wonderful, she's the queen, she's the savior, she's this, she's that, but she's really a tyrant. She's going more in the direction of a mad queen than she is a savior. She's going more in the direction of Napoleon than anything else. So now we're finally seeing that light when a lot of watchers of the show followed along with a majority of she's this way, she's this great queen. What if, and I'm not going to say we're because I'm not doing that in real life with this other lady in the palace. But what if everybody else who seems to think all these hate pieces are true and watches other YouTube channels, which I'm not going to name, but ones that relentlessly pound in the hate about her every day, if those articles are just smear campaigns, if there's something behind all of this, why they're doing this? Because you have to question whenever the majority says something, a lot of times, even if there's a little grain of it, there's a truth to that that is opposite of what they're telling you. When somebody wants you so badly to convince their point, of how they want to say, how they want to build somebody's character to be, how they want to say that this person is. And they want so badly that this article and this article and this article and this article and this article is saying she's this, she's that. She did this to Kate. She did this to the brothers. She did this to her dad. She did this to her sister. She did this. She did that. She's like this. She's like that. All this bullshit stuff, like I've even heard of alleged yacht girl stuff. Okay? All of that. Why? What's the reason behind that? And is that the truth? It's a very, 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 very risky business following the majority. And I'm going to say this because I'm an Aquarius moon. Of course, we are the ones who always go against what everybody else says. Aquarius moon or Aquarius sun men and Aquarius moon women are always going to be the ones to say, wait a minute. Now everybody's going that way. Well, I'm going this way. So that's all I ask you to do. Relate what's happening now to Daenerys. If you have a chance to ever watch Game of Thrones, you ever will watch it in your life, it's a very good allegorical lesson for don't always believe what the majority is trying to make you believe. There is a reason for that. Maybe it's a distraction. Maybe this character assassination of this woman we're seeing in the media, and I can't go too far into it because this is a public video, is a distraction from what is really going on. And maybe she's not as bad after all as you thought she was, just like Daenerys wasn't as good as you thought she was. Thank you for watching, guys. My readings are for entertainment purposes only. I do not claim any of this to be fact. And if you would like your own personal reading, go to naomitarot.com. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.